Hey, Doug Greathouse here, host of the Entrepreneur Journey podcast. And before we get into another amazing interview with an incredible entrepreneur, I wanted to invite you to the Trailblazer Mastermind community. What that community is a community of amazing entrepreneurs, just like the ones that you've seen me interview on the podcast, the 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs. You'll get to learn from and engage with those entrepreneurs, and as well as many other entrepreneurs. We have a weekly networking event in there where you will meet the people that are seeking you and that you are seeking, meaning your next podcast guest, or if you want to be on a podcast, your clients, joint ventures, affiliates. We make those connections happen inside the Trailblazer Mastermind at the Entrepreneur Connect. We also have a monthly mastermind called the Trailblazer Mastermind. It's a feet to the fire style mastermind, meaning the goals that you have set for yourself and your business, you have a mastermind that is going to hold you accountable and help you hit those goals. You also learn what is working inside of other coaching businesses to help them grow. So that's not all. We also have the Sales Site All-in-One marketing platform, which you will get access to as a member of the Trailblazer Mastermind. It has everything that you need to grow your coaching business, from funnels, you can host your website there, social planner, email automation, SMS automation, sales pipeline, everything, literally everything you could possibly need to market and grow your coaching business is inside that platform. So you'll get access to that. There's also contests and giveaways. There's the expert training library, where we have experts. If you want to launch and grow your podcast, if you want to write a bestseller, those experts are going to be inside of the mastermind, and you can learn from them and grow. And in addition, last but certainly not least, there's the Raise Your Revenue course, the course by me and my team that we put together to help you hit your 5-figure consistent months in your business and then grow from there. So this is a roadmap to get you to that first 5-figure month, lay the proper foundation, and you can grow from there. So there's so much more. Go check it out. It's at mastermind.salesite.com, and I hope to see you on the other side. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Entrepreneur Journey. And I am so thrilled to have Paul Docampo with us today. And Paul is an amazing email copywriter, and we're gonna dive into some of the tips and tricks to have successful emails later. He's gonna tell us his story of how he got into entrepreneurship, and it's just gonna be a lot of fun. But let's just take for a moment and let Paul introduce himself. And a brief introduction, Paul. Tell us who you are and kind of what you do.
Appreciate the intro, Doug. Trying to make a long story short, I've been a real estate investor since 2015. And at that point is kind of where I dived also into a rabbit hole of copy. And then from there I started an info publishing business in that niche, had some clients in that same niche of real estate investing, software coaches, anything serving the real estate niche. And then I also created a marketing service based business that really sells marketing templates, emails, text messages, and scripts to real estate investors, really leveraging my expertise, my positioning in the market with copy. I still invest, and I still have client work, freelance work. As my active income. I have my separate business, REI OmniDrip.com, which sells marketing templates to investors, and that's where I am today. And email has been my specialty, just because that's been and in that realm, that's kind of what I dove into. I just really enjoyed doing it. There's some aspects to it that I enjoy doing, that I enjoy about it, and it's just a high demand type of field. Email, everyone's doing emails. It's quick and easy. So I just been doing that since 2016. Always had a list to email to build a relationship to sell things to since then. Either my own list or other people's lists. So
nice. You dived into your story a little bit there, but I may follow up after we do our rapid fire questions, so you can kind of tell us kind of the path of your journey. But first, I always like to have a little fun with my guests, and we do a little bit of rapid fire questions. Very easy to answer. Usually, a lot of times, 1-word answers. Sometimes, like the last interview I had, we got a lot of value just out of the rapid fire questions that wasn't expected. So who knows what's going to happen? So the first question: if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh man, it's a tough, any like super, it doesn't matter, any kind of
Doesn't
super.
matter.
Um,
Just
man,
one though. You can't have multiple. You can just have one.
um, I'd say teleportation. That
Mm,
way, like I just save time going from, I feel like I'm traveling all the time, and we're going to Portugal in the summer. So it's like I just teleport myself and my family to it rather than taking a 16-hour flight, So
yes, yes, yes. That'd be awesome. Matter of seconds instead of half, most of a day, right?
um,
So, favorite musician.
That's a tough one. I guess it depends on the mood. The mood that I'm listening to. It's a really tough question. I'm not much of a music guy, but I've been on a Coldplay plunge
Mm,
lately, so I don't even know their names. So whoever
nice.
the main guy is for that. So
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm a Coldplay fan as well. So, what would you rather own, a helicopter or a small yacht? And I had to preference this because everybody would say yacht if I just said yacht, but a small yacht, not like $1 billion yacht. We're talking a smaller yacht.
yeah, I'd say a yacht.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I enjoy being out in the sea rather than flying. I'm not much of a I don't like flying much, to be honest. Maybe it's fear of heights or something, but I just enjoy the water and yeah. So yacht.
Nice. Nice. You can invite friends on. You can't unless you have a really big helicopter, you can't invite many friends. And then it's so loud in there you can't talk to them. I'd also say yacht because it's not very relaxing being on a helicopter.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. If you could be on a game show, what game show would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a hard one. I don't know. My kids are watching The Price is Right recently, so I'd say The Price is Right, right? With the original
Bob Barker.
if you're still alive, yeah, originally him, yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice. That's what I would choose too, because there's a bunch of different games on the prices, right? It's not you're not like tied to just one type of thing. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. All right, now to our my one of my favorite things in the interview is the fill in the blank question. Blank is the number one factor in the success of getting people to buy from an email.
So I think there's two answers to that. It depends on the email style that your business is doing. But I would say number one factor is relationship is the number one factor for them buying from you. I think that's a missing key for a lot of businesses is and stop me if I'm ranting on if you just
No.
want like a quick one phrase answer, but yeah, relationship I think is a missing key for a lot of businesses. I think that's what emails primarily for 80% of businesses, that's what you should be doing is building a relationship via email. It's the same element used in social media. The caveat to that are businesses that are marketing to business opportunity biz op niches and lists, and businesses that are just they have a lot of products in their array of things, and like e-commerce, they have just a ton of products, and the sale is based off of the new thing that they have in that email. Like, here's our new thing that we have, if that makes any sense. Here's
Yeah.
our new offer. That would be the driving component to making sales in those types of businesses.
Nice. I really feel like we could dive in a little bit deeper here. And if we don't do it now, I'm sure we'll do it later. But I have questions, follow-up questions. I'm going to try and keep them in my head about the whole relationship thing in email and solo ads, those type of things. So if I don't ask you a question on those soon, remind me. Or if you don't answer them within another question, please remind me because I really want to dive into that. And I just don't want to do it too early.
Definitely.
All right, so now let's kind of expand on your story. Like, what prompted you to want to get into entrepreneurship, and then kind of leapfrog around from there? Like, got into entrepreneurship, and then you got in. I heard you said you got into investing. You're doing real estate investing, and then you started going to other opportunities, right? So, if you
Right.
kind of take us from how you got started to where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. I'd say I was about 28 years old, and it was I think a lot of people start off this way. There's a missing factor in their life, or like maybe it's they're living paycheck to paycheck. For me, I think it was that component, living paycheck to paycheck, wanting more. I was at the time I was working in pipeline, in natural gas pipeline industry, utilities. Yeah. I was a welder. I was a foreman. I ran a crew, so it was actually fun work. But I still felt like I wanted to do more. So, like, you hear this book constantly in every real estate podcast is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Read that book. Amazing book, by the way, even though like it's very basic. Like, I reread the cash flow book recently. I'm like, geez, it's amazing how things hit you in different seasons of your life. Even though you might have read that book or listened to that podcast years ago, you read it again, it's like you learn brand new information. So I'm a big proponent of like rereading things that you've read in the past, not just reading it once and forgetting about it. Especially if it's a great book. So anyway, I read that and realized like, hey, there's more to this, and kind of dove into the rabbit hole of real estate. Did some wholesaling, dove into that. Very, very hard, especially if you're in a competitive market, very hard thing to do. Dove into flipping mobile homes, dove into flipping land, kind of create a small volume land business for a bit, created some notes off of that. And how I got into copywriting was purely accident. So not so much accident. There's a software out there. We've talked about it, and you know them, Carrot. And so they were very new in the world, and maybe a couple years old, and they sent out a blast message, and I was a member. I was using their services. And they sent out a text or a blast email looking for a copywriter. I've heard about it, didn't know what the heck really would it compose. I was like, I'm a decent writer, whatever that means. And so I sent, I responded to it. I filled out their application. They tried me out for a test run, and they're looking for a copywriter for their clients, for their top tier concierge clients, where you work personally one-on-one with them. And I tried them out, and then they fired me. So,
oh no.
Yeah. They said, you know what, you got too many typos, too many grammatical errors, it's just not going to work out. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, I guess copywriting isn't my thing. But then 3 months later, I was thinking back about it, and I was like, if that was the only thing that kept me from getting a job, like, punctuation, which is still a problem sometimes, I think it's still have that. But at that time, I was like, you know what? 3 months after, I was like, if that was the only thing that was stopping me, I mean, that's a simple thing I could just hire a VA to proofread, right? And so I sent out a message to them. Hey, are you guys still looking for somebody? I'll go out of my way to make sure that this is proofread. I'll pay out of pocket and all that. They're happy for me to respond back because they're still looking, and they hired me, and it was just from there, kind of the rabbit hole went from there. I worked for them for a bit. I got a couple clients here and there. I created my own info publishing business where I was writing to my own email list, writing my own copy, and then just kind of in working copy into real estate investing, because I had a land flipping business at the time, kind of going off in a contrarian like way with my land flipping business, and writing and building a buyer's list and writing a daily email to them, which it had good results with that. So I was seeing kind of the good effect of a daily email, or at least a multiple weekly email that's more infotaining style rather than just say, hey, check out my new deal. So yeah, that's kind of the start of all that.
Wow. So you took kind of took a brief stint and didn't know it. You were being an entrepreneur a little bit at Carrot, learning kind of like what you would want to do in entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah. Oh, right. I mean, I guess my entrepreneurship journey started when like I was going out as a real estate investor, knocking on doors, sending mail, cold calling, all that good. I mean, yeah, I mean, all that good stuff. Not really just being a salesman rather than starting my own business, but I was trying to do it all then, wearing all the hats at the same time back then. And then working as a contractor, freelancer with Carrot, kind of started the whole journey of just copy in general. Yeah, and working as an entrepreneur, yeah, I mean, I still do that today. I mean, if you want to classify as a contractor as an entrepreneur, I'm in there. I'm in the weeds, giving them advice. Just yeah. I think for I don't know if you have freelancers on your that listen, but
Yeah.
I think that is a huge, rather than like, let's take a huge add value as a freelancer you can have, is not making sure you're not just a prompt writer or prompt contractor, right? Just like, hey, do this. But if you know your stuff and you offering some advice when there's like decisions that are kind of stuck, or something's not moving forward, or they need help, right? So yeah, I kind of went on a tangent there, but
No. I welcome tangents on this show. Tangents often turn out to be awesome. So I welcome any, like, if you feel like value coming from you, just spew it out. That's what I have. And yeah, there are some freelancers that listen, and some entrepreneurs that listen, that basically, one of my other recent podcasts was a sort of lean towards entrepreneurship, and how he went from being an entrepreneur, learned the ropes to running a business through an entrepreneurship, and then was able to launch a successful business quicker because of what he went through as an entrepreneur, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is a difficult task. It really is. I mean, yeah. So in any route that helps you get that learning curve, learn the whole ropes of it, definitely. So
yeah. Sometimes I would like, this is for anybody listening that thinks they want to. It depends on the type of job you're in right now, but thinks that you want to just jump from a job to a totally unfamiliar entrepreneurship track, like an industry that you're not even that aware of. It's best to kind of maybe even go as an entrepreneur into the industry first, kind of learn some of the ropes, and then in a company that will flourish, that will not flourish, but will encourage you to do that, right? Those
yeah.
companies that are looking for, companies grow really successfully when they hire people that are entrepreneur minded, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, there I go on a tangent. So, all right, so I love that. I love your story. And so that, I have one question about that story. When did you start Omni? Is it REI Omni Drip? When
Yeah.
did you start that?
Oh, and that one's a fresh new
Oh,
offer I've got. I mean,
nice.
it's only like a year old. And so probably a year and a half in development, but I mean, launching and making sales about a year. So it's fresh. I did it because of the opportunity I saw, and I tested it with, when I say tested, I don't mean like, a running a bunch of ads and things like that. I
Right.
tested it basically one-to-one, just trying pitching it to people I know, and working out well and seeing a need for it, filling a gap. So it's more of a, our OmniDrip is more a cash grab for me today, and to build an email list that maybe I can sell them things later. The list, I think, is more valuable than the actual product should be eventually. So yeah, I mean, before I had OmniDrip, I had a podcast called Real Estate Audios. I owned that URL. That was like my first dive into info publishing. Very tough business to get into. You have to really know the playing field that you're in. I sold a little product that had the rights to, and it sold decently because it sold on the back of email marketing, building a relationship, and it did well. There's other I think problems that I closed it down just because of the amount of work, and I didn't have a great offer to sell. And I wasn't a guru in the business. And info publishing, especially in that niche, takes a guru to be on the front lines of things. Can it be done in the way that I kind of implemented it, where it's like, hey, you're kind of the I saw the expert secrets in the back right there, where he teaches kind of where he kind of teaches, like, there I don't know, 3-4 different ways you can sell information, and one of them is kind of like you're the medium, I guess, the host, and and you're kind of the curator of information, right? That could be a way to do it. I'm not saying that's you can't or can't, but that was I guess that was the mode by default that I was going towards. Just a very tough journey. Maybe somebody could prove me wrong. I don't know. There's always multiple ways to skin money in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the route.
There were a couple things that you said, and we're going to get into your expertise in a minute. I just love to ask like follow-up questions. One of the things that I want to make sure the audience heard is the list is going to be more valuable than the product, because I don't think a lot of people get that is how valuable an email list can be. It could be more valuable than your offer. So keep that in mind. That's why building an email list is so important, because you own it. And we'll go into a lot of that again, I'm sure. But I wanted to make sure the audience heard that. There was another thing that you said in there that I wanted to pick out, but for some reason I just zoned in on that one, and now I forgot the other ones. I may remember it and come back to it. But so now let's dive into your expertise a little bit, because I'm sure the audience wants to hear like how to really do email marketing. Some of them may have a small list, some of them may have no list, some of them may have a big list, but they don't know how to make money, how to optimize it, right? How to make more money off of it. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and hopefully there will be some insights in there that the audience can take and apply to using their email.
Absolutely. Sure.
So the first question is, what is the secret to crafting a compelling subject line and engaging email content that will increase conversions? I know that's a mouthful, but subject line, conversions, subject line engagement for conversion.
So the first shallow answer to that, and first easy one-off answer to that is curiosity for subject lines. Like curiosity, I always try to strive for curiosity, and it matches the market's looming questions. So you can craft curiosity, but then does it match the markets? There's a caveat to that though, and that there's a few caveats to that, and now I'm going to get to more contrarian type of thinking on subject lines. For one, very first like tip to this is make sure you're going to pay off that subject line. Like, so if you write a subject line just for the sake of getting it open, and then it leads way out of right field, way into right field, you're damaging your relationship. I mentioned earlier that relationship is the key, it's the foundation. If I put email marketing on a pyramid, and where like what's the number one elements, I'd say at the bottom, where it holds everything in place, at the bottom of the pyramid, it would be relationship. That holds everything. That's the number one principle. When I deal with clients, when I deal with my own business, that at the top is principles. At the top, the principle is relationship, and the strategies and the tactics come from there. So it's always asking the question: does this hurt or improve the relationship with my list? Unless of course you're in the business where you're just transactional, you're just, hey, making the quick sales, I have multiple products, here's a new offer for you, here's a biz op market, they don't care about relationship, they just want the newest thing. That's a caveat to all this. But if you're not in that realm of business, if you're not in that market, relationship is going to be the bottom line, like pure element to getting to increasing revenue over time via attributed to emails. So the other caveat to that is, once you build the relationship, subject lines don't matter very much, because what I've seen in the data you can split test. If you have a good relationship with your list, if you split test a really bad subject line, that this doesn't really work in this market, with a really great subject line, what I see is the open rates are very, there's not much difference. There might be a difference of 10%. That 10% are the people who who are opening based off of the subject line. The rest of the opens, they're opening it because of the sender name. So the sender name and with the name that appears in your inbox, that it has the most impact in opening an email rather than just a subject line. So yeah, and I do the same thing. Like when I in my inbox, I kind of filter via the name. It's like, oh, okay, and then you develop a habit. Eventually, you develop a habit of opening that person's emails, right? Because you find it interesting. So your second question was, how do you develop compelling content? And that's the key. I mean, to grow the relationship, you have to have compelling content. You have to have you have to have something that people have an interest in reading, right? And sometimes I think that people struggle with this when I don't think it's that difficult. I mean, I say that in my perspective, maybe it is actually really difficult. So I've been doing, I've been writing a daily email since, I don't know, 2016, 2017. So, but I see people who struggle with it, but then you kind of dig into their life, and they're writing daily posts on social media. So I'm kind of scratching my head. It's like, you can create your content creator on social media, but you can't create email. To me, like those things are kind of, it's pretty much the same. You're creating content and you're creating, compelling content. What do I think is compelling content? At the bottom of the list, I'd say information, just pure information. So tips and lessons. That's at the bottom of the list, meaning like that's like not the most ideal. If you're just posting up pure information, pure like how to and stuff like that, that's needed to show you're an expert. But if you constantly do that, if you're just pitching out free information, free how to, it gets dry and boring. It really does. I'm on a personal level. I get tired of just listening to pure information, pure how to. Eventually, you get tired of it and you move on to the next person. Then you start stacking on different forms of content that increase the value. And when I mean value, I mean the reader's interest in continuing reading your content. It goes into more of entertainment. It goes into more of like even drama, even maybe drama's at the top. That seems risky for a lot of people. When I say drama, I mean trolls that are commenting on your social media or replying back. Entertainment in the form of things that are happening, interesting things are happening out of your life. Usually, what I tend to do is, each market varies. I've been writing to not so much business to consumer markets, but more so business to business. Because if I'm writing to a list for a company, and that company is selling a software, and that software is for other business owners or inspiring entrepreneurs, it's a bit more so business to business. So that list for me is a pretty easy list to mail to, because they enjoy inspiration, they enjoy business lessons, they enjoy mindset lessons, marketing lessons, all stuff that I'm diving into every single day. So I'll typically, if it's my own list, it's in my voice, my personality. It's my own personality that's driving it. I may talk about something that happened to me, an interesting story that happened to me while I was walking down the street. And then there'll be a lesson behind it, a business lesson, a marketing lesson, and it's something inspirational, a mindset lesson, whatever it is. So there's always things. I guess I don't know if is that an analogy, or it's a way of taking something and twisting it into a lesson for that particular market at this particular time. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that was really good. I think what most of the listeners next question on their mind that I'm going to ask you, and maybe we can dive into this a little bit, is how to build the relationship, right? And I have some comments on that, but I want you to kind of give your take on that.
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned just the interesting readership, gaining readership, right? So an element to to copy is readership. Across any kind of copy you're doing, you want to gain readership. I dive into AI. I use it, and the aspect though that and AI is going to really level the plane. I'm not an AI expert by any means, but I think from listening to other AI experts, it's going to level the playing field for people who struggle to create content, written content. But I do see it as maybe increasing mediocrity for people, because when I use it, the content typically is just filler content. It typically is just straw. Like it is so if everything is straw, everything is just filler content, readership is going to start decreasing for that piece of that platform that's using the AI content. So you got to be careful. Like, so another project I have is I have a niche blog that I've started, and we're experimenting with AI to create that content. I have a writer that I've contracted to creating articles for us, and I'm coming in more of a oversight person when he writes the content. The videos I get feedback on is, be careful with filler content for the sake of word count. Okay, because everyone wants 2,000 word count on an article for SEO purposes, but it's not about the word count. It's about the interest in what you're saying. See, you can write a 5,000 word article, but if nobody's reading it because it's just straw, because it's not interesting at all, then it's not going to do anything in the long run. For the rankings on that page, on that article. So I'm going on a tangent here to explain
No, it's good.
Give an answer to your question, which was how do you grow a relationship? And I think it's one, avoid have interesting content, but have interesting content. You have to really avoid filler content for the sake of having content, right? So that's number one. Number two is frequency. I think that's a big one too. If I've joined email lists where you might get a welcome email. You don't hear from that person for a month, and then you get an email and you forget, like, what the hell is this? And so that's so. Frequency is a big one. Even like weekly is, to me, like substandard today. Sending a weekly email, I think, at that point, because there's so much content floating around, people are on social media every day. I've talked about daily, and daily is kind of a big thing today. People are like Ben Settle followers and all these other copywriters that do daily now. That's kind of like the standard now is daily emails, and everybody's preaching it. But there's something to be said about it, because everybody's on social media thumbing through it every single day, every 3, 4, 5 hours or closer to that, maybe every 30 minutes they're thumbing through social media, absorbing information. So daily is almost like a standard like it should be a standard, because everybody's consuming information anyway every single day. So I guess you have to be, I'm not saying that, I'm not suggesting do daily, I'm not suggesting do weekly, but I am suggesting though more than once a week. I am suggesting that for relationship sake. There's another style of email that I didn't edit. So I mentioned two styles, right? I mentioned your personality driven, which is building your relationship with them. And then and you can have a personality even with e-commerce businesses. Or the other style, which is you're just pitching products every single email. You just have a new offer to send them. And the sales is driven by the new thing that you have, right? So, and the element that the metric that drives that is your clicks, right? You're just, for that type of business. That's just, new thing, new offer. You're just trying to increase clicks for them to see the new offer. Clicks don't matter to me much. And when I run emails, yes, it's there, but I don't see correlations between sales and clicks very often, or open rates in sales. I don't see those correlations very much. But I know there's a lot of people are going to say I'm wrong. Yeah, and like I said, there's multiple ways to skin the money. And so yeah, I think I went on a tangent there, but to build
it's all good.
To build a relationship, frequency, making sure you have interesting content, you don't have straw content. So
yeah, I want to reflect on a couple of things that you said. One is about the AI. I've had a lot of AI experts on the show recently. One of them is Julia McCoy, who's at Content at Scale. And one of the things that we talk about is not use AI by itself. You got to inject personality and authenticity into your content, right? Because otherwise it just becomes bland, just like everything else. Everyone else, it starts to become like what you said, the mediocre line, right? Everybody's putting out there. So I think another proponent of that is injecting your personality and your authenticity, just like you would in your social media content, inject it into your emails, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it can. I don't know how to do that. I've experienced a lot with it to try to inject different ways of saying things. I typically get the same replies back, and it's probably some people argue, oh, it's your prompting. Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't had a training on how to prompt correctly, even though I tried all kinds of different things. But
what I was getting at is it's not, AI isn't there yet, right? Because she's Julia, for one, is on AI all day. She's like one of the main experts that I know on it, and she still says that it's meant for like a rough draft, right? It's meant to kind of give you the bones, and then you inject your personality and your authenticity into it. And that's kind of what sets it apart. Maybe AI will get there, right? But according to everyone that I talk to, even with great prompts, it's not there yet. It can.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I like for articles, for lengthy stuff, I could see it being used for. I don't use it for emails, and I've tested. I don't use it much for ads either, for Facebook ads. I often write Facebook ads, even though I have used it. We've tested it out and stuff like that. People say it's a time saver. For the reason why I don't use it for emails is because like if I have to do it as a rough draft, and then I have to go in there and edit it out, it takes me longer to do all that. And that sounds crazy, but if I can write an email, a well-written email that's personality driven in 15 minutes, I mean, like, I'm not going to spend 30 minutes trying to get AI to do it in the way I want it done. Right. I'm sure there's, if I have proper training, if there's tools out there that kind of learn the way I do it, the style that I do, and I'm sure there will be tools out there that, it learns the way you do it. And, perfect. Great. That's going to cut now I'll cut an email to 5 minutes rather than 15 minutes. Right. So, that's kind of where I am with my experience with AI.
Yeah, I think that is the next step though for AI, is to be adaptive to the user.
Yeah.
Right. I really think that's the next step. Something else in there, when you talked about the daily emails, weekly emails, etc. Would you say if someone cannot commit to doing daily emails, or if they can't commit to doing, let's say, 3 emails a week, that they should probably put off an email strategy until they can commit that amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, there's no sense of emailing if you're really not going to be consistent about it. I mean, I guess you got to do something with that list. I mean, what we talked about, I mentioned earlier that your list could be, and I say could be more valuable than your actual product or offer. That's the key is there, that you're communicating with that list. So the bad part about email lists or any kind of lists, direct mail lists, is that there's decay, there's rot. right? And if you push it out long enough, too long, then you're going to have the effect where you email them out of the blue, and you haven't emailed them in a while, and you email them in a personality driven way, like as if you know them. They're gonna be like, who the heck is
Yeah.
this? So that's the problem with pushing it out. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can, but if you can't commit to it, you can't commit to it. I mean, but I would say you are, and if you have a large list and you have somewhat of a relationship with them, and you just like, maybe you've built a relationship via social media and you've pushed them into your emails, you are going to risk you're going to have the risk of decay. You will have decay if you don't consistently market to them.
And I would say it's probably better to email more often and have people drop off your list than have it, because those aren't the right people. The people that if you're emailing frequently and people are dropping off, it's because they just don't want to hear from you, right?
Right. Yeah. There's so there's people who fear, they get scared when they hear about the unsubscribes, because it's like, yeah, if you all of a sudden go from emailing once a month to emailing once a week or 3 times a week, you're going to get a huge drop off of people. And but the thing is that there's social media folks, there's email folks, there's direct mail folks, people who and what I mean by folks is they respond better to different mediums that they're more comfortable responding to. And the fact is that there's a good chance that person dropping off, you're not interested in what you have. Maybe you sell a cat grooming product, I don't know, and the person on the list happens to now not own a cat and doesn't care about cats anymore. Well, you have that, right? Then you have the people that just don't consume information via email. Well, it doesn't matter if they're on your list, they're never going to buy from you if they never respond via email. See, direct response, the foundation is that person responds to the medium that you're putting in front of them. If they're not a responder, they never will respond to, no matter what, right? So, but then there's also there's a caveat to that, and if you do email frequently, you can convert people into email readers. That's happened to me. So somebody. I didn't really become an email consumer until back when I was listening to Ben Siddle in 2015, 2016, heard about him in a podcast, jumped on his email list and just consumed his stuff every day. And so, so you can convert people from being, the majority of people are social media consumers. So I get, having a social media presence and all that. But if you bring them in your email list, you can convert them. If your email list information is different from your social media stuff, and some more, there's a reason for them to be on it. So,
and I also think about the law of, I think it's 7 times. Somebody has to see your offer 7 times before they buy. I don't know if that's the same case in today's society as it was when people came up with that, but just being omnipresent, right? So having email as an accompaniment to what you're doing other places. Okay, they see you on social media, then they get an email from you. That email may be where they make the buying decision, even though they kind of got to know you through social media, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's 7. I mean, I don't know where they came up with that stat. I think it's actually more than that. I think I heard something else like it's actually today it's even more than that.
Oh, really?
But,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some, that's an old stat, but then today it's far more than that, just because the amount of information that's out there. But I mean, I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. The point is that, yeah, it takes multiple times for them I mean, I've heard of people being on email lists for 3 years without buying anything, and they finally buy something, right? Amazing relation. You have to think about that. Like somebody who's been on an email list that hasn't bought anything, same person, and just been on that email list for years until finally they pull the trigger on it. That is an amazing relationship to have there. So, if you count the amount of emails, like, and then that person's been emailing daily, I've had people jump from list to list to list for me. So meaning going from one business to the next and just following me via email, and constantly listening to me and buying something from me, amazing relationship to have there. And I never talk to the person on the phone ever, just it's all via email communication, email marketing, I should say. And every once in a while you get a reply from them. So, yeah, what was it? Yeah, where are we going with that? I think
I don't know. I came up with a bunch of questions to ask you. And this first question on your expertise has trailed into so many other questions, which have been a lot of value delivered. And I'm always about delivering the best value possible at the time. And based on the answer that you gave me, I just wanted to go continue down that rabbit trail to continue to deliver value.
We were talking about frequency and the amount of times people see, there's an amazing book by Dan Kennedy called Trust-Based Marketing. And I really base my selling Omni Drip, my product today that I have today, the offer that I own today. It's I can, going back to every sale, not every sale, almost every sale. And I haven't tested this, this is just based off of intuition. This is based off what I see, what I feel. By the way, tangent here. People say test all the time, but and we could talk about testing an email, but we could, that's a whole nother realm of things. But I'm not a big tester, to be honest, because like the amount of data you need to be statistically significant, I think people miss that. So a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we have to go by feeling and instinct. We don't have the data to prove a concept a lot. A lot of times it's just like you test it out with talking with people, and that's kind of the data you get, the feedback you get, and you go for it. It's a risk. Yeah, it's not data driven. Okay. But a lot of times you don't have the capacity to do a true test that's going to give you a data driven decision. So you got to go by intuition and feeling. So what am I getting at with, so Omni Drip, and I preface that because this isn't like proven, this isn't tested on my end. It's just how I see it. Omni Drip has been sold on the back of trust from other people. It has been sold on the back of referrals. It's been sold on the back of being on other people's lists or being mentioned on other people's lists. There's a great book by Dan Kennedy called Trust-Based Marketing, where, and I 100% believe this today, that just every transaction you make, that there's this bridge that you have to fill, and the main element that needs to fill for them to, if you think about this chasm, this huge cliff, and you're on one side, customers on the other side, you got to fill that gap. They got to cross that bridge to meet you, to buy. The main element that builds that bridge is 100% trust. That's what I firmly believe today. And trust, in that book, trust can be done in multiple ways. I just talked about one with using other people's trust. But frequency is another one. The more times they see you, more times they hear you, read you, whatever it is, it increases that trust meter. If you put it on a meter, it increases that trust meter for them to keep crossing that bridge until they get to you, until they get to your product or offer. So
I think that's a good segue into my next question that, again, wasn't on my list, but solo ads, right? Buying entry into someone else's list. You have not established a relationship yourself, but that person has. Can you talk about just your experience with that? Let's just talk solo ads for a minute.
Yeah. Well, I've never experimented with the traditional way of solo ads where you like buy space, like on newsletters, right? That's been a big, and I didn't never talk about a third way of emailing, which is the newsletter style. So you have the hustle, you have 1440, which I'm subscribed to. You're not necessarily built. It's not necessarily personality driven. It's built off of the listicle of information that you're putting on that newsletter. So that is one style of marketing that I'm not really familiar with, to be honest. I mean, I'm trying it out with a client right now, and I have a friend who's building a newsletter great newsletter with it, and I'm a regular reader of it. So there's something there to be said. If there's readership there, there's something to be said. That traditional way, you're buying solo ads. That's how I see it usually done. In the market I'm in, the niche that I'm in, you don't see a lot of solo ads. And rather, though, you do see these mentions, you see these kind of JVs done via email, right? So that's what I have experience with. I don't have experience with traditional buying space in an email newsletter, because it's really not done in my market. Yeah, that kind of tangent here, segue here. Whatever market you get into, I do suggest, and this is I learned this from my mistakes, is learn the playing field. What's the battlefield like? What are people already doing? So in my market, it'd be a hard sale to go around and to join masterminds and go to other people who sell to similar lists as mine, and trying to sell them on paying for a solo ad that they'd never done before. It's just like they're scratching their heads, like, this isn't done in our market. Like, trying to sell something that's just not really done.
Yeah.
It's especially if you're brand new, it's kind of a hard to try to do something that's not in the playing field, not in the battlefield. It's a pretty, in my experience, it's kind of a hard journey to take, right?
Yeah.
So going back to solo ads. So I mean, I've done that. That is how that Omni Drip is kind of on the back of that. Actually, lead generation is on the back of doing these joint ventures with people where, I'll approach people who have their own list, and they have a list of people who may be customers, clients of mine, and I pitch a JV to them. Hey, let me write a couple emails for your list, and I'm gonna we're gonna promote my product and offer. Typically, it goes well, meaning that I get good feedback from the list owner, because they know me. Again, they already know me. I've already built a relationship in this market. I mean, it's taken me years. I've been in this niche for many years. People do know me. So it's an easier sell to make with that. I mean, if I'm approaching somebody cold, it's going to be a little harder to make that sale. Usually they're appreciative of it. They like the offer. They like the product I sell. They like me. They trust me in writing emails to their list. So that's how I've been doing it.
Yeah. That's more of the kind of route I was thinking too. And I guess solo ad sometimes encompasses an umbrella of ways to do it. And it's kind of like building a relationship. Like when you build relationships with people and there's a possible joint venture, if they have a list, they trust you and they know that their list can trust you, you approach them. As long as it's not competing with what they're doing, they're often open to letting you do that. Either that you pay to get on their list, or they want a cut of whatever comes your way from their list. So I for a lot of people that were listening, I just wanted to kind of expand on, because they may not understand. If they haven't in the email game for a while, they may not even know what that looks like, right? So I kind of want to give the details of how that could be constructed. Number one, it's building the relationship with the possible person that you want to joint venture with, because that's got to be solid before they'll ever think about you. I mean,
if in your market, buying solo ads is a common thing, you can actually just buy, space in there, then, that's an easy route. In my niche, in my market, that's not a regular thing. So I have to, in order to be mentioned in other people's lists, platforms, audiences, I have to build a relationship with them, because it's not like if I go up to them and say, hey, I'll buy space, they don't know who I am. It's not it's not a common thing that there's multiple ways to do it. Yeah, you can pay for leads. I've seen that done. Pay every lead that opts in, I'll give you. One of my clients, that's what we do with affiliates. Affiliates get our ebook asset that they can quote sell as an opt-in to their own audience, and they get it's either $5 or $7 per email opt-in that they send our way. So an opt-in is very easy for them to sell, and they get $7 an email address every time we get an opt-in from them. So that's one way to do it. You're jumping on somebody else's, you're plugging into somebody else's trust, using other people's, the whole principle behind it. It's not just like, that's the tactic of going up to somebody and doing a JV and getting a list mention, that's a tactic, right? But the principle behind all that is using other people's trust. Because that's the main. That's, like I said, I believe firmly today that is the main principle that makes a sale is trust. So how do I do it? I should say trust is the principles. The strategy is using other people's trust, and then from there you dive into, well, what tactics can I use to jump on other people's trust, right? So
yeah, and it also can be done in reverse, where if you have a relationship with someone, they can help bolster your list by guesting on your list, right? Because they see the authority tie in,
right, absolutely,
and you can promote them. So,
absolutely.
so yeah, man, so much value. Let me go on to the next question that I had written down for you. I would like to know more about the process for developing a strong call to action within an email, and how to create a sense of urgency, because people will get an email, right, and they'll be, we'll go into this in a second. I don't mean to run in a tangent asking you the question, but people will get an email, and sometimes there won't be a call to action, and sometimes that's just a relationship building email, right? But when it is time to do a call to action, how do you create a sense of urgency and a good call to action?
Yeah, the urgency has to be, in my opinion, has to be real, has to be legitimate. And so the urgency, I mean, you could fabricate it, but then it has to be legitimate. I wish that my clients would really tag into you leverage urgency more often in their products and their offers and their services. So, I mean, I don't, to be fair, I don't do it in OmniDrip just because of the nature of the product. And I eventually have to weave in some kind of urgency. If you're selling a month-to-month subscription, that comes easy, especially if it's like content related. That could be easy, right? Like, very easy to have a sense of urgency, dive into it. And so, I don't know if I need to dive into that, but content. If you're selling content, if you're selling information, then that comes naturally with urgency. But if you don't have that, I don't think it's so. To answer your question, the copy itself, there isn't like words. There isn't really any like, there's always debates about using certain words like call now or call today and all that. Those certain words that might give a sense of urgency. Hard to test unless you have a list of, I don't know, 100,000 people or something. So I don't really dive into that, like what little words work better for clicks and all that. They don't really work with clients that have a 1 million person list or even 100,000 person list. But urgency is going to happen. Like, it's going to happen with the offer. Like, so if you're selling a service, it would be, you would have to have maybe maybe a waiting list, or you have to fabricate certain ways of adding urgency to your business, whether it be here's how I do it with a calendar, with sales calls. When we create sales calendars, is we create very limited slots for sales calls, and if by the end of the week we don't have it, by the end of the week, if the slots have been filled for the following week, we have a Zapier that goes out that fills that content up, or fills those slots up, right? Creating a sense of urgency like that. Hey, there's you got to jump on a call, right? That goes more into also social proof as well, seeing that, hey, there's so you're kind of mending in social proof and urgency at the same time there. But I would say for urgency, you have to fabricate it into your actual offer, but real legitimate urgency. I hate doing I've had clients want me, and I refuse to do these tricks. And you see it often. You see it often in the email world, the guru world, coaching world, where you have a deadline to buy something. Deadline ends, then the next day it's like, oh, our system crashed because so many people were buying. So we opened it back up again. Trying to instill the elements of social proof and, again, urgency. So I'm not a fan of those. It's not real. Like, I mean, it's 20. I mean, if it's real, it's real. If it really, something did happen, that's happened to me where discount codes weren't working for like the whole like promo. And then I only hear about it till like after the sale. I'm like, oh, dang it. So, all right, let's push it back open because the discount code wasn't working. Yeah, I'm not a fan of creating that stuff. People, I think it's 2023. People can see right through that. And again, if you go back to the principle of relationship, it's like what is going to hurt a relationship or what's going to improve the relationship, right? So, yeah, I think I mean I don't know if I answered the question directly about urgency, but I think it has to be in the offer.
Yeah.
First. And then from there, the copy, whatever you say to try to get them to click.
Yeah, most often, I love that answer because the urgency, I love how you said the urgency is creating the offer. So it's the offer creation first where you're discovering how to put urgency into the offer. And then the email is just about writing about that urgency, like just letting them know about the urgency. And one thing that I love that you keep repeating that I'm huge on is relationship. Followers of me know that that's one of the main words that I say a lot too, is because it's all about relationship, because you can burn a list pretty fast, right? If you damage that relationship. So
yeah, and it's not to say that a business that does these tricks for the sake of making a sale, it's not to say that they're suffering. I've been in those companies, coaches that the relationship is not the main metric, or it's not a metric, but the main element in their style. It's just about getting the sale, do whatever it takes to get the sale. Yeah, and they have their sales revenues great because but it's on the back of lead generation. The business is 100% on lead generation, and you see it the opposite effect having in the conversions because they have a high churn rate in their emails. High churn rate, not only emails, unsubscribes, but also high churn rate for whatever subscription product they've got as well. So, I mean, you heard relationship is not an email. It's not just about the sale revenue. It's also about churn rate. If you sell a month-to-month type of product, the more they trust you, the more they're going to stick around and stick around with your product. So,
here's a good equation, right? I don't know if this, but if you amplify the relationship, you're amplifying the lifetime value of the customer. Wouldn't you say that's true?
100%. Then you can sell, 100%. You can sell more of what you can sell. You can increase or decrease, increase retention, decrease churn rate. You can sell them other things on the back end. 100%. That's why when I said in the beginning, the email list is more valuable than the product, and that's the reason why. You can sell them more things. The front end product is just like OmniDrip was. When I go back to why I created it, it was just a lead generation product. I mean, not the sense that it's free. It's a high ticket product. And I'm experimenting with how different things and how I'm going to be selling it up front. I've been selling it as a $2,000 product up front for a year now. I mean, the price has increased now to $2,000, but it's always been a lead generation mechanism to get attention, to get on my email list, because there is value in there's value in having no competition in what you're selling, and so there's a lot of value in that. Actually, I think Sam
Blue Ocean.
There's an extreme amount of value in that. I think Sam Zell mentioned that actually. Sam Zell, he just recently died, right? Real estate mogul. But he actually said that, and I remember reading it in one of his somewhere from him. But so I created OmniDrip because, hey, there's a big gap to fill. Nobody's doing anything like this. Nobody's selling anything like this. And so it was just a lead generation mechanism to build my email list. What I sell them afterwards doesn't really matter, but something can come afterwards to sell them. I mean, there's always stuff to sell a list, as long as you're selling good, good things, and it's in sync with you and who you are and your market. So
Yeah. There, like throughout this, another thing that kept coming to my mind, and I will get to the next question, but knowing your audience, right? Knowing your audience is huge in any type of marketing that you do. So, I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit there too. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and you don't really get to know your market. It's not just about the market. It's also about your list, knowing your list. So you have the bigger umbrella market, and then below that you have your list, which is kind of a sub market if you think about it, because you're filtering people in and out, and you're only getting like a segment of the people in your market who are actually paying attention to you. So these people all might share something in common, or they may not. Well, they share what they share in common is they're interested in you. And so, but knowing that little sub market too is even more important than knowing your grander market, because and the only way to know that sub market is to communicate with them daily, right? That's the
boom, back to the email daily.
or I'm not advocating for daily. Well, I am advocating for daily, but you know, do what you need, do what you can do is what I'm saying.
As long as it's 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
You know, and you can only really know what that market is by getting replies back. Sometimes it's hard to do when you have a small list, or putting out new offers to see how the market responds. When I say market, I mean your list, how your list responds to those offers. So,
yeah, awesome. So now let's talk about metrics. Everyone's all about metrics when it comes to marketing. You know, what's the KPIs for what they're doing? So what metrics do you consider most important when it comes to email marketing?
Sales revenue. That's the only one.
Yes.
I don't care about clicks or open rates so much. I use open rates more as a gauge for especially if I'm jumping into a new list. I'm using open rates to gauge the health and the deliverability. I don't use it as, you know, again, going back to the beginning of like, you have, you know, two different types of, actually three, I mentioned three. You have the newsletter type as well, which I'm not too familiar with, but newsletter type, I mean like a listicle of news. And so, or where it's not really personality driven, it's driven by the name of the newsletter, right? Like the hustle and the tonic. And so, going back to, I think I lost, I kind of derailed there what I was talking about.
The metrics.
But, metrics, yeah. So open rates. So I only use it to gauge kind of the health. Click rates. Again, this is what I was getting at. Going back to what I said is you have your relationship, personality driven email style. Then you have your company who is primarily driven by just, you know, giving that new thing. Every single email has a new offer. I would say those vanity metrics play more of a bigger role, right? Because you're trying to get as many opens as you can from these new subscribers. You're trying to get as many clicks as you can because you have something new to sell. So yeah, those I would say those KPIs. I mean, again, like there's multiple ways, and I say multiple ways to skin the money in this game. Because there's gonna people are gonna disagree with this, right? This is what I've seen. This is my own experience, and so so I don't pay very close attention to click-through rates because I don't see a direct correlated relationship or direct relationship between that and sales revenue. I said sales revenue is key, and not per email per month, and or even per email address. Like how much like on average are we making per email address that we have? Because like again, like I can try it. I can go and increase click-through rates. Very easy to do. I can trick them into clicking, right? But if you have a business that kind of sells the same thing, you know, they you know, like one client I have is a print shop, is a mail. They sell mailers. So, you know, there's nothing new there that we're selling unless there's a new product for the month, right? So they don't come out with new products often. So like the click-through rates are going to naturally be lower unless except for the emails that are like maybe pushing content. Hey, check out this article, check out this video, right? But if it's pushing product, and that product is this kind of the same product you've been pushing for the last 6 months, you're going to have lower click-through rates. So naturally, I can go and try to trick them into clicking, but I can say, hey, check out our new product. They click on it, and it's actually not a new product. Again, going back to this main question, am I hurting, am I damaging relationship or increasing it? So it's kind of a funny business. You have to find line you have to walk with. So I'm not too with that, knowing that, it depends on the business I'm running, but most of the time click-through rates I don't really pay much attention to it. Again, unless you're pushing new product, unless you're, I'll pay attention to it if like, I'm pushing a piece of content and I'm selling the click, right? If the goal is to sell the click in that email, then yeah, click-through rates do matter. I'm looking at that. So I don't know, kind of went in a whole array of things there, answers to your question, but for KPIs, sales revenue is number one. And I don't really look at, I see a lot of newbie email copywriters looking for freelance work. They'll I've seen people talk about how, oh, we'll get the best performing email and then we'll put it in our welcome series. Well, the thing with that, when you have a relationship personality driven email, is you can go ahead, I suggest trying it, but most of the time what you're going to see, if you get an email that like did really well in revenue and then you like recycle it back in and to test it out, I've done that and I've gotten 0 sales from that email. Like, why? So what it tells me is that it's not the sale was driven by the relationship rather than luck plays a big role into this too. It's just the time at the time. If there's no urgency involved, right? The timing of that email, the timing of that customer, when they buy is a lot of times the element is their life. What's going on in their life that's going to get them to buy today. Of course, you do, as a copywriter, you do the best you can to add urgency, to leverage the problems, leverage the pain points. But when you're in a relationship driven email where you don't have a whole array of products that you're selling, brand new things, you don't have a lot of urgency to work with. The main component is relationship, and it's just when they have the budget to buy it, then they buy it. And then maybe it was luck that one email, we had 10 conversions and we made, just from that one email, we made 20 grand with that one email. And we try to use it again and you don't get the same results. So, yeah, so I look at month to month sales revenue when it comes to KPI.
Nice. I'm going to touch on something there, and it's just going to go back to the daily email thing, because you don't know when it's the buyer's time, right? So if you're showing up daily, you're more likely to hit the buyer's time than not, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a great point. I'm going to kind of push back like an argument that, so you have to get one to get the other, right? You have to get an email open, you have to get an email clicked to get a sale. Right, so they are a little bit important. Just I'm taking you're coming at it from a reverse engineering standpoint, meaning that the focus is not on the open rate, focus on the sales revenue, and then let's track backwards, right? From there, not from the open rate to the sale. Would that be more right, or am I kind of?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, the main goal to get more revenue. Well, the main goal is always get more revenue, and there's multiple ways to get that. Remember, we talked about 2 businesses that are driven by click-through rates, driven by the new offer, and you have the other one that's driven by relationship. So then from there, it stems the tactics and strategies from there. I keep bringing this up, and maybe I sound like a broken record here, but I look at it a little backwards. If you're doing like a welcome series, you have fresh new email address into your list. You're going to try to craft the best things that you can for open rates. So I take back what I said a little bit. They do matter, especially for your new email addresses, right? But again, relationships at the bottom or top of it, however you picture your pyramid, it's at the top of it. So in your welcome series is where you're going to be establishing that trust from the very beginning. Like, so if you're if you're doing anything you can to get the open, anything you can to drive the click, but you're hurting the relationship at the same time, like that, now you're screwing up the value of of that email address on your list, right? So long term, it's a long-term game, of course. So but I mean, people are going to argue, I just want the sale, and that's fine. That's, if that your business is driven that way, I'm not going to argue with that. There's you can make money off that. You can make a lot of money off that, off biz opportunity markets, and driving new offers, driving new products, and just getting the sale. So I'm not going to argue that's not a good way to do business. I'm just stating how I build an email list for the long-term gain.
LTV.
Right. Yeah.
LTV.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have another question, but something else popped into my mind, and that was consistency. We're going to go back to this daily email thing. Someone that is just starting growing their list, right? They're going to have a hard time. It's a mindset thing. They have to stay consistent and get better at it every day, because they're not going to see some of the results that they're hearing these gurus have in their emails, because they haven't established the relationship. So I think it's key to point out that if you're starting an email list fresh, you're just getting new opt-ins and things, and you're having trouble staying consistent because you're not seeing the results that you expected. It's likely because you need to hire a copywriter, or that you just need to get better and better and keep establishing that relationship, and then it's a long-term game, just kind of like you said.
Yeah. If you're starting a brand new list, it is hard. It's hard to get over. You see it and you're like, man, I'm not getting results. And I remember one of my earlier businesses with info publishing. So I had two different info publishing businesses. In my earlier one, I had a really small list of 200, but I still made money off of it, pushing a product or coming up with a new product. So you can make money off a small list if the offer's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but consistency is the big, I mean, it's a cliche. You hear it constantly. I mean, you got to be consistent with something. You got to be, I mean, if you're consistent with lead gen, great. Now you got to be consistent with, because now you got to be consistent with the conversion part of it. Like, what are you doing to build that relationship? You're building a relationship somehow, unless you're, just a product-based business. You're just selling a product up front and that's it. And but if you can be consistent on social media, I think it's ironic. People have a hard time being consistent with email, but they're very consistent with social media. It's like, it's kind of the same to me. It's like, it's almost the same. It's just, except you have two different types of, audiences, readership. So, it's kind of ironic. You just gotta build the habit. That's all. And the great thing about being consistent about writing an email, weekly email, I'm gonna say weekly because I say daily, but none of my clients do daily. Can't think of, none of them do daily. So very hard thing to do. But the nice thing about being consistent with doing multiple week emails is that it becomes easier and easier. And so because then your mind every day is trying to come up with ideas. If you only do it randomly, it's very hard to come up with an idea for that day, because then you overthink it, because you think like it's got to be perfect, because this is my one email I'm sending for the month, and it's got to be perfect. Well, if you do it in a very much more consistent way, and especially daily, that's why another better reason to do daily is that there is a lot of slack for you to not be perfect, and then you come up with more ideas. Ironically, like the guy who sends 30 emails a month versus the guy who sends 2 emails a month, the guy with 30 emails a month actually has more ideas, because your mind is constantly generating ideas, because you're just constantly immersed in that. Not to say you're going to take up your time, but you may be on a walk with your dog and then you see something, and you have an email idea, and then you quickly email yourself the idea, or write in your notes app, whatever it is. So your mind is always turning for ideas, and comes up with ideas easier because you're exercising, you're working at it. So
plan it. Like, if you're going to do like emails, plan it in your calendar. Hopefully you're planning your weeks, but plan when you're sending your emails in your calendar, and then just stick to what you set out to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to do it. I personally actually write my emails live and send it the day of. Yeah. So that's how I function. Other people might not function that way, but or at least send it for schedule for the next day. But I think, in my opinion, it's actually easier to write a let's just say an every other day email than it is to write a 1 week per email. It's easier because you're building on you're building on it. The ideas just flow much easier, right?
So, yeah, and sometimes it's like the first email is starting to tell a story, and the next email is the continuation of that story, etc. So you can segment a whole like idea into 5 emails.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, so much information, so much more information for our audience than I even thought we were going to get. I have one last question. Well, actually, I have two more questions. I want to ask you a question about segmenting. This is probably one of the longest entrepreneur journey episodes ever, but that's fine with me. So how do you segment? Let's talk about segmenting the list and to ensure that each person gets something relevant to them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be the person to ask that. Okay. I don't, because I don't segment very often. I just send it the whole list. And so, yeah, I'm trying to think back of when I would segment, and it might be just between buyers and non-buyers. That is the extent of segmenting, right? Because I never been in an environment that it's crucial to segment. You hear segmenting a lot. I'm just not, I'm not an expert in it. And so the only extent of segmenting for me has been non-buyers and buyers. To send an offer to send an offer to the non-buyers that the buyers already have. That's that. So how I can see it working, and this is something I might be experimenting with a client of mine, and in OmniDrip as well. Maybe I maybe experimenting with it. Is I think the best use of segmenting, because to segment, kind of have to have the information, right? So you have to have the data. So like, how do you get the data? Klaviyo is a platform I use that I think they're great for that, for getting data, especially if you're running an e-commerce business. So you can segment off of products purchased and all that. And so, yeah, I mean, I have done segmenting in that extent, different buyers, what they've purchased, sending them a different offer. So we've done that segmenting. But what other data can you have to segment? And so the only other way, you have geolocations. I don't know how, I guess if the offer is location based, I guess that makes sense, right? But the other one is those ask campaigns, right? Ryan, I forgot his name.
Levesque. I think that's how you say his last name.
I always butcher his name, so I don't remember his last name. That's been his main front runner offer is his whole, like, his expertise has been that ask campaign, which is just it's a survey, and it drives the direction of what you're going to present to them, right? Especially, I think that would. I'm trying to convince a client to do that because they have an array of products that fit different avatars. So if you have different avatars, makes 100%. If you have a business that has different avatars, 100% makes sense to segment a different offer to those all three, or different pathway for all three. But you have to collect the data up front, and the best way the only way I know of is doing an ask campaign or survey in the beginning. So.
Yeah, and there's no reason to do that until you have a substantially sized list, probably anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a small list. My best advice is being in, the one metric that matters, that I swiped that from, or I took that from Troy Broussard. And he has this whole thing on, what's the one metric that matters. He has this whole story about how Dropbox, how when they first started, the only metric that matters to them was getting free subscription, free opt-ins to use it. That's all they cared about. For you if you have a small list, that the one metric for you is opt-in rates every month. That's the only thing you should be looking at. Sales is important. It's a really hard thing to do. And I've done it where it's like, yeah, but I got to get sales, like sure, the one metric matters, but I got to get sales, maybe that's your one metric that matters, but but you should be, rather than focusing on, oh, I got to have this type of funnel, and I got to have this ask campaign and all this segmentation and all this crazy stuff. I am guilty of doing that, of going into this, like, looking way ahead where I don't need to be yet, rather than focusing on, like, what is the one thing right now that I need to be focusing on, right? I don't know the right phrasing from the book, The One Thing, but there's a lot of value in that. And so if you have a small list, yeah, you have the book right there. So if you have a small list, you should be in OmniDrip. I have a small list. It's a fresh new product, right? So I've been focusing on lead gen because I am going on the back of, hey, as lead gen increases, so does sales. So yes, sales are important to keep my VA on staff and keep a cash flow for myself. But as lead gen increases, so does sales. Yeah. So that's my take on segment. I think we went to segmenting and then lead generation. So I'm not an expert and by any means. So
no, it's all good. I really liked how, like, segmenting buyers. And the only other thing that I would think would be possibly an upsell. Like, if you have a list of people bought, right? And then segmenting those, like, kind of like you said, segmenting those buyers, knowing that there's a higher likelihood that they're going to buy an upsell, and not including the people that didn't buy, right?
Yeah. Resistancy, right? I think that's the right word. There's this, when you're buying a direct mail list, I'm not an expert at all by any means on this,
yeah.
But I just know from reading it. But when and seeing it in email stats, but when you the closer you offer something to somebody right after they bought something, the higher chance of buying it again, of buying something else, right? So we see it in our upsells all the time. So yeah. And you can segment. I mean, that's another, if you have the correct data needs to be collected for you to segment correctly. You can then segment via so if you have like if you have 2 bump offers, 2 different upsells, you can segment based off of what they bought. And those 3 are very different. Those 3 different upsells are very different. And it kind of tells a story of what they're interested in. And then you can segment into that too. If you have an array of different products, or of ways to sell them different products, you can segment that way too, by the information of what they bought.
Wow. I feel like the audience has kind of almost got an email masterclass in a podcast. So that is amazing. Thank you, Paul, for delivering so much value on email marketing. I'm sure a lot of people are going to go and implement a lot of things you talked about. And then some people are going to be, they're going to have to listen to this again because they're so overwhelmed with all the information that they got. So thank you so much. I know you also have something for people to check out. Can you talk about that?
Well, I mentioned it throughout this, and it's kind of what's in top of mind is the product I have, REI OmniDrip. It's mainly reiomnidrip.com. It's mainly for investors, but if you happen to have any investors there, they can check that out, reiomnidrip.com. People can personally email me if they want, paul@reiomnidrip.com. They can go ahead and chat with me there if they need help with their email side of things. But yeah, those are the 2 ways to contact me.
Can you kind of give the bullet points of what OmniDrip will help them with?
Sure. Bottom line is conversion and picking up the lost deals that they would have lost. So this is for off-market investors, and if the problem with off-market investors is they primarily focus on the quote hair on fire sellers who need to sell yesterday, and then they neglect all the other leads that come into the fold that are going to sell. They're just not ready to sell now, or they're not really ready to sell with you. And so I developed a automated sequence-based messaging, all copy driven, all kind of leverages different problems and pain points that we plug into the investor CRM for them. We actually do it's not a software, like you're not buying a software. It's a one-time thing. We go ahead and input our sequences that I've created. It's custom based because I have software that matches your market, your brand with the messages that I've created, and then we input into the CRM for them. So
wow, sounds amazing. So pretty much done for you with a little bit of customization, right?
It's done for them. It's as if it's like as if you hire a copywriter to write these follow-up messages for you, but it doesn't take 2 months of time, 3 months of time, and it's not because again, here's going back to what I said about knowing the playing field. If I went and tried to sell a unique one-to-one copy service to real estate investors, in order to make sense for me, I have to charge something more along the lines of $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, right? Most investors aren't going to pay that. That's not the playing field I know people are going to challenge me. Like, oh no, you can't charge that, and you probably can, I suppose, but it's not scalable on my part because then I die of boredom writing the same type of text messages and emails every single day. So instead, they don't care about uniqueness. If they don't care about uniqueness, I'm going to bank on that. So I'm going to create the templates. I'm going to create different variations, and I'm going to try to create messages that match different avatars, because there's probably only a handful of different investors that have different type of branding or different buying mechanisms. So I'm going to try to match those messages with it, pre-build them, and now I have now I can just sell those templates yes, they're templates, but they are customized because we have questionnaires. As if I trying to use software as if like, hey, I'm coming in, I'm speaking to you one-on-one, I'm going ahead and write everything one-on-one for you based off of your personality, based off of not your personality, based off of your testimonials, your business, your brand, etc., and plug it into. I mean, I kind of went on a tangent there, but kind of I do my whole spiel of how I built this product and what this product is, if anybody's interested in building a product like that.
Yeah, I love the way that you constructed that, and I really wanted you to go into the benefits, so anyone that's listening to this can say, okay, yeah, I need that right now in my investing business, because it just to plug and play. It's kind of sounds like a little bit of time from talking to you to getting it in play, right?
Right. Yeah. It's not like a 2-month time that somebody made. It's more like two weeks to 2 weeks and a half that it's installed in your CRM, ready to go, ready to be fired off. So
nice.
I'm trying to reduce the production, but there's still some, I make sure we review everything. There's back and forth to make sure they approve of it. So far, I take it just like a copy project if I were to write one-on-one, but I have software in place that kind of fires off and creates the templates for them.
Nice. Okay, we'll include the link to REI Omni Drip in the show notes, and if you're watching this on video, it'll be somewhere in the description. So go check that out. Paul, it has been awesome having you on the show. I hate that I have one more question, but I never end a show without asking this question. Any advice for any of our entrepreneurs?
I don't know. Let's see. I don't want to sound cliche like everybody else says, and so I'm trying to think of something.
Just think about your own experience. If someone was to give you advice 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I would say that it takes a lot more effort than you think it does. So that consistency plays, again, the same cliche, consistency, because you go into it, you're thinking, I just read about this. Somebody a realtor wants to get into the luxury home business, selling luxury homes. They're getting a guy who gets 2% commission on a luxury home, on a $1 million plus home. That could be $20,000 commission check written to them. But they want to get into it with only $100 to spend $100. It's like, okay, in real estate investing, every market is different in terms of cost per deal. cost per acquisition. In California, I'm originally from California. I'm in Idaho today. In Southern California, the cost per deal is very high. If you're going to be, I'm talking about marketing. I'm talking about these realms of marketing. So if you want to send mailers out to find a good deal, you might be spending $7,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 on that campaign to grab a deal. Now you got to make sure those margins match. And in California, you can get those margins to go 3 times your marketing spend. But people who don't have a budget. So this is my tip. This is my lesson. People don't have a budget for that, like that. Well, you have to understand that the higher the cost to get into something, and you don't have the money for it, it matches the amount of effort. If you're doing boots on the ground, just door to door, just grunt work, it matches the amount of effort you're going to need to get the same results. So, yeah.
So kind of sounds like if you can access the money and want to shortcut it, you might want to do that, right?
Right. Well, I mean, there's a caveat to that too. If you have no experience, and I know this from experience, if you have no experience, you don't know what you're doing, you know what the hell you're doing, you can blow through that money really, really fast.
Yeah. That's a good heat of warning too.
So it's actually better to start with no money, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because the experience is worth a lot. Remember that too, everyone. That experience that you're going through is worth a lot.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
So thank you again, Paul. And until next time, everyone, keep moving forward.